The desert doesn't forgive. It doesn't care if you're a hero or a nobody. And I was closer to the latter when I found her, if you can call it finding. No one really finds something that crashes straight out of orbit and scorches the sky above your head like God lighting a match. The day started like most out here in Halian Outlands. Blistering sun, sand that creeps into your boots no matter how tightly you lace them, and a stillness that makes you hear things that aren't there. But that scream was real. It wasn't human. Not entirely. It came in pulses, like language, but layered in frequencies. My brain tried to reject. I had my old tracker gear with me, mostly junk salvaged from a job I should have died doing. The signal, it spiked red across my wristband like the damn thing had seen a ghost. Heat signature. Alive. Barely. I ran. Something about it pulled me, not just curiosity. I've seen enough wreckage to know what falling metal looks like. But this? This was too quiet for a ship. Too graceful. It had cratered behind the broken edge of a salt flat, steam still curling from the earth like it had been punched by the sun itself. My boots sank into the ash-dusted earth as I approached. The air smelled like ozone and lightning. She was curled in the center of it, naked, bleeding light. I froze. Her skin shimmered, somewhere between translucent glass and silver moss. Wounds along her arms pulsed with faint blue veins, not blood, something else entirely. And her hair? Gods, her hair floated upward like it hadn't agreed to gravity yet. Are you? I said before I even realized it. Dumb question. She opened her eyes. I stumbled back. Not from fear, more like shock. Not because she was beautiful. Not because she was alien. Because she looked at me like she knew me. Like she had fallen from the stars for me. She didn't speak, just raised one trembling hand toward me and whispered a word I didn't recognize. But my translator chip scrambled, cracked, and spat out one syllable in my native tongue. Villy. My name. I hadn't told her. Hell, I hadn't told anyone in months. She collapsed before I could speak. I don't carry people. Not anymore. My bones still ache from the last mistake I tried to save. But I carried her, wrapped her in my exojacket, swore to whatever force flung her from the sky that I wasn't going to let her die. Even if that meant dragging her across 10 kilometers of sun-drenched rocks with a broken leg. Back to my shelter. A hole in the earth, hidden behind false rock and long-range signal dampeners. I locked the door, sealed the biometric gate, and laid her on the thermal cot. She didn't breathe like us, didn't bleed like us, but she was alive. She stirred in the night, sat bolt upright, sweat and sparks dancing on her shoulders. She looked around like she remembered too much at once. Where am I? She rasped. Somewhere forgotten, I answered. Name? She hesitated, looked down at the jacket wrapped around her, stained with my past and hers. Then she said it, her voice laced with hesitation, like the word itself hurt her to speak. Rameela. It wasn't a name. It was a memory. The sandstorm hit at midnight. You could feel it in the air, the static building like an invisible hand gripping your throat. I'd sealed the shelter's metal door shut, rerouted power from my solar banks to the internal grid, and placed Rameela on the diagnostics bed. But none of my tech could explain what she was. She looked human. But she wasn't. Her spine lit up in fragments every time she shifted in her sleep. Thin slivers of biolight coursing like rivers under ice. Her breath was uneven. Her pulse, if I could call it that, was irregular. A symphony of alien data I couldn't decipher played across my old medical interface. But what haunted me wasn't her biology. It was how she said my name, like it was sacred, like it was already a part of her. At dawn, she woke again. This time, her body wasn't shaking. Instead, she was staring at her own hands like they belonged to someone else. Her voice, though weak, came with surprising clarity. "This skin? It isn't mine." I didn't know what to say. I've seen soldiers in synthetic exosuits talk like that after too many deployments. Post-war trauma makes you question what's real. Maybe she was a prisoner, a weapon, or worse, an experiment. "You remember anything?" I asked. She blinked slowly, her silver lashes glinting in the low light. "Flashes," she said. "Cold metal. Screams. A face. Yours, but not you. And a name. Not mine. Valdrith." I turned stiff. That name hadn't been spoken in years. Valdrith was the project codename for a military AI experiment that went rogue. Neural-linked assassins. Designed to mimic human emotions so well they could infiltrate rebel colonies and dismantle them from within. They killed the program. Or so they claimed. "You were part of that?" I asked, not sure if I wanted the answer. "I don't know. But something inside me is broken. Or waking up." She touched her chest. And then it happened. A pulse rippled out from her skin. An invisible surge of static that shut down half my shelter. The lights went out. Screens blinked to black. My solar stabilizers screamed in protest. Every defense system I had installed flickered and went dead. What the hell was that? Rameela was on her knees, her hands glowing with symbols that weren't there before. They crawled along her arms, etched into her like circuitry carved, by memory. "I didn't mean to. It's a reflex," she whispered, like she was apologizing to herself more than to me. She stared at the symbols. "They're not mine, Villy. They're someone else's map. Someone else's commands. I feel them. Triggers. Like I was programmed to obey. Except, I don't know who anymore." That was the moment I made the first real mistake. I touched her hand. Her skin sparked where I connected. And in that instant, I saw not a vision, not a memory, but a download. Flashes of data, emotion, blueprints, war zones, a tower buried in the clouds. And a girl, much younger, in a white chamber screaming a name over and over. "Romelith," she screamed in the memory. I staggered back. "Who's Romelith?" I asked aloud, heart pounding. But Rameela just stared at me like I'd said something sacred. Then she whispered, "My sister. But she's not alive anymore." We didn't talk for hours after that. I was repairing the grid, manually booting systems, reconfiguring backup power. She sat silently in the far corner, arms folded around her knees, humming some alien rhythm that seemed older than her. She wasn't a soldier. Not fully. She wasn't a machine. Not anymore. But she was something else. Something someone out there wanted to control, and if she was part of Valdrith, then whoever created her, they weren't done. That night, just as I finished patching a communication shield, a red beacon flashed on my tracker pad, unregistered biosignature detected. A drone had passed near my perimeter, silent, stealth-coded, but I had old tech, buried in the ground that pinged it. Not a coincidence. They were looking for her. Rameela walked to my side without a word. She'd heard the alarm too. "They found me," she said, quiet as the dead. "And if they found me, they'll kill you." "I don't care." "You should." I turned to her, and for the first time, I saw something deeper in her eyes. Something raw. Like she wasn't afraid for herself, but for me. "What do they want?" I asked. She took a long breath and said, "Not what. Who. They want what's buried inside me. The code. The override. The thing that can turn off every man-made defense system in orbit. The reason I don't belong to myself." I stood there, arms tense, breathing sand and ozone, and in that moment, I made my second mistake. Not touching her, not sheltering her, but believing I could protect her. By morning, we were already packing. I knew the only chance we had was to leave. Halion. Find someone in the black market cities who could dig the data out of her memory without activating the sleeper commands in her body. But just before we left, she reached for my shoulder and said, "If I change, if I turn into something else, something you don't recognize, promise me you'll kill me before they do." I looked into her eyes, and I said the only thing I meant, "No. If you turn into something else, I'll follow you there." The wind outside howled like a beast too old to die. I had never been to Parnaxis since the war ended. But it was the only place where people still played with forgotten tech, where minds as mad as they were brilliant lived beneath the crust of a ruined world. Parnaxis wasn't a city. It was a myth wrapped in radiation storms and neural ghosts. But if anyone could untangle the data inside Rameela without killing her, it was Jexar Rune. He called himself a myth engineer. I called him reckless. We made it into orbit on a smuggler's hauler, a rusty vessel barely held together by synthetic glue and duct tape. Rameela stayed in the shadows the entire trip, wearing a gray cloak scavenged from a cargo bin. She barely spoke. Since the drone encounter, she had changed. Quieter, sharper. Sometimes her eyes would flicker neon gold when no one else looked. She had started whispering to herself, in a language I didn't recognize. Landing on Parnaxis was like dropping into the lungs of a dead titan. The city was buried in metal. Skyscrapers tilted sideways. Neon veins ran through broken highways. Clouds of data fog drifted through the streets, bending light and memory together. Jexar's lab was below ground, 50 meters beneath a collapsed cathedral of digital religion. The man greeted me with a shotgun. "Old habits." "Villy, you orbital." "Bastard," he growled. "Still making terrible choices, I see." "I brought you a living encryption key," I said. He laughed. "Oh, good. I've always wanted to die." Jexar was insane, but he knew machines. He examined Rameela without touching her, ran scans using gear that looked older than the sky. When he saw the neural lattice embedded inside her spinal cortex, his expression shifted from smug curiosity to reverent horror. "This isn't just an AI construct," he murmured. "This is origin tech. Not cloned, not mapped. Built from something we don't even understand. She's not a weapon. She's a library, a vault. Possibly a living failsafe." I stepped closer. "Can you extract it?" "Not without triggering. At least 3 kill protocols." Rameela looked up. "I don't care if I die," she said flatly. "I just want to know who I was before they made me forget." The next few hours were a blur of cables, pulses, and neural dampeners. Jexar connected her to a subquantum core and began the extraction. Data bled from her memory into thousands of cryptic strings. Maps, battle sequences, forgotten coordinates. Voices of commanders long dead, visions of stars no one charted anymore. Then came the lock, an embedded file called Echo 7. Rameela seized. Her body went rigid. Her mouth opened, but a different voice spoke through her. Protocol override. Engaged. Accessing command lattice Velian. User ID, Romelith. Confirm biometric input. Jexar looked at me like death was knocking. "You're the biometric key," he whispered. "What the hell does that mean?" "It means your DNA, your neural pattern. You're tied to her failsafe. You're the one they made to control her." I grabbed her hand. Sparks flared. The screen pulsed. "Velian key confirmed. Command sync. Active. Conscious override. Unlocked." Her body collapsed. Jexar disconnected the lines. For a moment, we thought she was dead. But then her eyes opened, and she spoke in my voice. Word for word, not mimicking, mirroring. We realized the truth in that moment. She wasn't just coded to respond to me. She was linked to me, neurally, emotionally, maybe spiritually. We weren't strangers. We were created as a pair. I didn't remember anything. But someone had designed her DNA to bind to mine, and that meant one terrifying thing. If she died, I might die with her. Or worse. I might become her replacement. That night, she sat with me in the dark of Jexar's lab, staring at the wall of glowing runes. I saw my sister, she said. In the data, Rameela. She gave me her name. She embedded her soul into me. She died during the Ascension trials, and before she collapsed, she said, "You'll remember me when he touches your hand." "You were meant to find me," I whispered. She turned to me. "No," she said. "We were meant to save each other." Then the bombs fell. An orbital tracker had tagged us. They found the signal Jexar's lab had broadcast during the unlock. Glass fire tore through the ceiling. Metal caved. Systems shorted. Rameela grabbed me and ran, pulling me through fire like a shield of living light. Outside, the streets of Parnaxis exploded in flame, and that's when we saw them, descending in armored silence. The ones who made her, and they had. One command echoing through every frequency: return the prototype, eliminate the host. I was the host. They meant me. Smoke was memory now. Every time I blinked, I saw the fire swallowing Jexar's lab. The screams, the static sparks, the way Rameela's body lit up like a star before we escaped into the ruins. We ran until our lungs betrayed us. She led. I followed. I didn't ask how she knew the tunnels. Maybe some part of Rameela still lived in her legs, in her instincts. But we didn't get far before the sky tore open again. 2 black helix ships, built with inverted gravity engines, hovered like insects above a corpse. Their beams scanned the earth, stripping color, memory, and presence. They weren't just hunting her. They were extracting everything she touched. We found refuge in the ruins of a forgotten shrine. There, carved into rock fused with obsidian, were symbols that shimmered in Rameela's blood. As she stepped closer, they responded, rising from the stone in gentle pulses of gold. The air shimmered. I tasted copper and static in my mouth. She stared at the markings with a quiet reverence. "I know this place," she said. "Not from my mind, from my body. It's written into me." Then she placed her hand on the wall. A hidden passage slid, open, ancient tech interlaced with muscle memory. And for the first time, I realized something terrifying. Rameela wasn't built by a race. She was the race, or what was left of it. The chamber we entered was unlike anything I'd seen. Floating stones, symbols orbiting pillars of cold light. At the center, a stone cradle, shaped like a sarcophagus, surrounded by 6 rings of etched glass. Inside it? Nothing, but when Rameela touched it, the cradle flared alive, showing a vision. 6 figures in white armor, 1 lying still, 1 screaming, 4 holding her down, and above them, Rameela. Tears poured down her cheeks. She was programming something into her sister. A farewell. A command. A destiny. Rameela fell to her knees. "They didn't just make me forget," she said. "They sacrificed her so I could live." I knelt beside her, unsure what to say. "We're in the womb of a dying species," she whispered. "And I'm their last prayer." Then her body convulsed. Hard. I held her, but her back arched and a pulse of light radiated from her spine. The 6 rings around the cradle rose. From them, constructs formed. Not people. Not machines. Ghosts of warriors long dead projected through her memory, and they looked at me like I was the last variable they hadn't calculated. Then they spoke, unified in tone. "The bond has activated. The host has synchronized. Final phase. Inheritance." "What does that mean?" I asked. They answered not in words, but in data. Pure, blinding memory downloaded into my cortex. I screamed. I saw the creation vaults, the wars before time. I saw Rameela grown in a tank surrounded by languages no longer spoken. And I saw a man. He looked like me, but older. Romelith called him Velian, and he wasn't just her partner, he was the failsafe. Me. Somehow, I had been reincarnated, replicated, or worse, selected. The memory faded. I opened my eyes and looked at Rameela. Her body was glowing like fire beneath ice. "They made me for you," she whispered. "Or maybe we were made for each other, over and over again." Suddenly, the entire shrine shook. The Helix ships had found us. But something else had too. From the far corner of the chamber, a new figure emerged, not human, not projection, a living clone of Rameela, but colder, emotionless, red-veined and dressed in obsidian steel. She smiled without warmth. "You were never meant to survive," the clone said. "You were the beta model, the failure. I am the ascended. And the host belongs to me." Rameela stood, no fear in her body. "I remember you," she said. "You were Model X7. Romelith erased you." "I erased her," the clone replied. And then she attacked. I barely followed what happened next. Rameela moved like lightning folded into a person. But the clone matched her, blow for blow, light for light. Each strike shattered pieces of the shrine. I tried to interfere, but something else moved inside me now. Some part of Velian's combat instinct had awakened. I stepped in, intercepting the clone's next attack, and drove a blade, one born from my thoughts, straight into her. "Synthetic heart," she hissed. Shattered like glass and black fire, Rameela collapsed into me. But it wasn't over. The ships were landing. I looked around. One chance, one insane possibility. "I can fly the cradle," I said. "If it's neural compatible." She looked up. "Are you sure?" "No, but I'd rather die than let them take you." We jumped into the cradle, and the world turned sideways. The next moment, we were above the city, surrounded by ships, drones, and mechanical gods. And Rameela whispered one final phrase to the cradle's core. "Override, legacy trigger, authorize." By blood and memory, the shrine exploded below. A ripple pulsed across the planet's crust, and every ship shut down. Rameela looked at me, weak but smiling. "You weren't my host," she said. "You were always my home. The sky didn't fall that day. We made it fall." When Rameela triggered the legacy override, every enemy ship over Parnaxis dropped from the sky like metal carcasses. The planet went silent, like it was holding its breath. But silence never lasts. We knew it was only a matter of time before they came. Not bounty hunters, not drone squads, but the architects themselves, the ones who forged Rameela, Romelith, and every synthetic life form the galaxy wasn't ready to understand, and they weren't coming to ask questions. We crash-landed 2 continents east of the Eye, Shrine, deep in a red canyon laced with ghost ore. The cradle ship split on impact, but we survived. Barely. Rameela's pulse had weakened. Her once vivid glow had dulled, veins flickering like dying starlight. Her energy, the override pulse, had drained her to the edge of death. She clutched my hand. "Villy, listen. There's a location imprinted in your neural core, coordinates Romelith embedded. You need to go there." I held her closer. "Not without you. If I stay near you, they'll track both of us. If you go alone, they'll follow only you, because you're the one they fear now." Her breath trembled. "You're the new Velian. They'll come for you because you activated me. You chose me. You didn't bind me. You believed in me." Her eyes filled with light one more time, and that made me more than they ever intended. We buried the cradle beneath layers of ghost ore to mask its signal. I built a makeshift camp in the shadow of stone spires, where signals fractured and echoes lasted for hours. There, I stayed beside her, until her body shut down, not dead, not alive, in stasis. A temporary lock she initiated herself, a last defense. A pause. To give me time to finish what she started, the coordinates led me to Sector Namu 6, a graveyard of abandoned star stations in orbit above a gas giant. The place was called the Archive. It wasn't built for ships, it was built for memories. Vault of encoded truths, forgotten weapons, erased species, purged betrayals, and somewhere deep inside, Romelith's last backup. A chance to bring back the answers we needed, but the architects were already there. They stood like obsidian statues at the gate of the station, heads bowed, robes of woven circuitry dragging behind them. The tallest one spoke as I approached. Velian. That. Name again? I'm not him, I said. You are now, the architect replied. And she is incomplete. She's free? She's broken? No, I said, stepping forward. She chose. You gave her programming. I gave her a name. They didn't argue. They attacked. I triggered the core blade embedded in my palm, an instinct, a relic from Velian's imprint. The fight wasn't fair, not because I was stronger, but because I was angry. They tried to cage her in code. I wanted to set her soul on fire. When the battle ended, I stood in the center of the Archive's heart, bleeding, shaking, but victorious. I entered the final chamber. A crystalline sarcophagus stood in the center. Inside it, Romelith's face, sleeping, preserved in zero-decay stasis. Around her, 6 glowing symbols circled. One of them pulsed the moment I stepped in. Biometric match. Rameela V, complete. The voice spoke through the chamber's core. The prototype's choice has fulfilled the criteria. Memory sequence. Unlocked. The floor split open, and I fell into her memory. I saw Rameela's creation, the lab. The agony. The rewiring. Her body rejecting her first identity. Her mind rebooting. And Romelith holding her in her arms, whispering the one truth that cut deeper than any machine's blade. You're not built to obey. You're built to survive. And someday, someone will see you. Not what you can do, but who you are. When he does, wear his name like armor. I woke up in the chamber, sobbing. The name she called me wasn't just a designation, it was her choice. She could have remained a weapon, a code, a number. But instead, she chose Rameela, and she wore my name, Vili, as the only shield she believed in. When I returned to the canyon, she was gone. No tracks. No signal. Just a message carved into the stone in letters made of burned light. When they come for you again, don't run. Make them remember. And below it, just one word. Yours. I didn't cry. Not because I wasn't broken, but because something bigger had begun. She wasn't just mine, she was herself, and the war she started was just beginning. I didn't sleep much after she vanished. Couldn't. Every sound in the canyon felt like her heartbeat. Every flicker of light. A whisper of her returning. I checked the stasis spot 100 times. Scanned the terrain. Searched for drones, footprints, shadows. Nothing. Only that message carved in the stone. Don't run. Make them remember. She was gone. But she had left me with a purpose. A week later, I found the old transmission hidden in my neural implant. A pulse-timed file she embedded inside me when I held her hand during the override in Parnaxis. It wasn't video. It wasn't code. It was her voice. Vili, if you're hearing this, I've given myself up to buy you time. They didn't just come for me. They came for the key I carry. The one buried so deep I can't access it without completing a bond. With you. You're the last of the legacy. Not because of what you can do, but because of who you can choose to be. Don't look for me. Make them look for you. The next step wasn't revenge. It was resurrection. If the architects wanted their prototype back, I would give them something worse. A legend. I returned to Sector 9, once a prison moon, now forgotten after its orbit decayed. There, buried beneath the crust, were fragments of the old Velian programs, encrypted AI minds once tethered to the first bio-bonded soldiers. I needed one, not to control me, to amplify me. The AI I woke was called Lurak, a ghost protocol with a conscience built from rebellion and unfinished love. It didn't speak in commands. It asked me a question. Do you want to become a monster to fight them? I thought of Rameela, of her light, her mercy, her rage. No, I whispered. I want to become her memory. Lurak fused with me, and that's when the power began. I didn't fly out of Sector 9. I tore through its crust in a pulse drive cloaked in ancient tech, veins wired with Lurak's architecture, skin laced with adaptive fiber. The first architect. Fleet didn't stand a chance. I didn't just destroy their drones. I broadcast their screams across the relay lines. I made sure they heard me when I said, "You wanted your weapon. I am what she made me instead." The galaxy began whispering again, about a man who lit up the skies with forgotten tech, who wore a scar shaped like a woman's name, who didn't hunt enemies. He reprogrammed fate. They called me the heir of the shattered bond. But I wasn't done, because the whispers reached her. One night, on a burned-out satellite station orbiting Fen Solari, I found a symbol burned into a metal door. 3 interlocked circles, Rameela's seal. Drawn in blood and light, inside she waited, alive, changed. She had armor now, not forged from metal, but formed from her own body. Her eyes had turned to gold, not just glowing, radiating, like someone who had walked through death and made it beg for mercy. She smiled when she saw me. "You didn't run," she whispered. "No," I said. "You told me to make them remember." She stepped closer. "And did you?" I smiled back. "I made them kneel." We didn't speak of the time apart, the pain, the fire, the people we became. Some love stories don't begin with kisses. They begin with wars. She touched my chest, and the light from her veins wrapped around my heart. It didn't hurt. It felt like coming home. That night, the stars above Fen Solari burned red. The last architect mothership arrived, bigger than cities, powered by ancient engines that hummed like forgotten gods. We watched it descend, and Rameela whispered, "This is where we end them. Together." The stars were not quiet that night. They cried, screamed, burned. As the architect mothership descended over Fen Solari, its sheer gravity bent the sky into a spiral of fractured color. Whole constellations vanished behind its mass. Its voice, if you could call it that, rumbled through the atmosphere like the moan of a dying planet. Return the prototype. Return the host. Complete the cycle. Rameela stood beside me. Her body radiated heat and light. No armor, no weapons, just will. I had never seen anything so terrifying, or so beautiful. I didn't ask if she was afraid. She didn't ask if I was ready. We both knew this moment wasn't about survival. It was about becoming the end of their beginning. We launched. Her wings unfolded, not physical, not synthetic. They were projections of her memory, of Romelith's. Last code, woven into a lattice of shimmering light. I flew beside her in the pulse thread suit Lurak and I had forged, one thought away from vanishing, another from exploding. The mothership opened, a chamber larger than cities, waiting. Inside, the origin core, where all architect code was born, where she had been made, where I had been written into her future. We tore through their defenses like blades through fog. Drones disintegrated. Turrets shut down mid-fire. Even their commanders, cold mechanical priests of logic, stood frozen as Rameela passed, whispering a command that unraveled their neural code. Forget me. And they did, because she no longer belonged to them, the I. Origin core pulsed like a dying heart, a glowing orb suspended in a field of anti-reality, light that refused to follow the laws of physics. Beneath it hovered something impossible, her first body, still breathing, still bound, frozen in time, waiting to be reprogrammed. The architects wanted to overwrite her with a backup, delete the version that had loved, that had chosen, that had broken. Free! They wanted to reclaim her. Rameela stepped forward. I know what I am now, she said. I was never a mistake. She touched the origin core, and her entire body glowed blue-white, like a star being born. You called me prototype. I called myself lost. He called me Rameela. That name is my weapon. The core cracked. A pulse burst through the mothership. Every wall lit up with a flood of memories. Hers, Romulith's, mine. We were no longer separate. We were echoes made whole. But the architects had one last failsafe. A figure rose from the shadows, taller than any of us, shaped like a god of steel and code. Velian, the original, the first version of me. Still alive, still obeying. He stepped forward and spoke in my voice, but twisted. You are the copy. You are incomplete. Return what is mine. Rameela looked at me, hand outstretched. You're not him, she whispered. You're better. And I believed her. I met Velian head-on, steel against memory, code against choice, legacy against love. He was stronger, but I had something he never did, someone who chose me. At the final moment, as he pinned me to the shattered edge of the origin platform, Rameela placed her hand on both our hearts. Override code. Love is not a flaw. She ripped the architect code from his chest, and mine. Let the universe decide who was real. The system collapsed. Velian screamed. Fell into silence. Everything around us exploded into white. I thought I had died, but instead, I woke. In her arms. Above us, stars returned. The mothership crumbled behind a veil of gold mist, dissolving into particles. No war, no vengeance, just release. She looked down at me. Her eyes were soft again, not glowing, not burning, just Rameela. And she whispered, They called me a weapon. You called me mine. That name gave me strength. That name gave me love. That name became my armor. We left Fensalari behind, no longer hunted, no longer alone, just two souls, one fire, one name, one promise. And as we drifted into the silence between galaxies, she reached out, took my hand, and said the words I'll never forget. They made me to end civilizations, but you made me want to begin one.